To some people, a car is just transportation, a way to get from point A to point B. But in the state that hosts the Indy 500, cars are something special. To many, cars are a work of art, a piece of history, something to dream about and admire. In Indiana, there are museums that keep beautiful cars and those dreams of the past alive, such as the Model T Museum at Richmond, the Auburn Duesenberg Museum at Auburn, and right behind it, the National Auto and Truck Museum, the Studebaker National Museum at South Bend, and the LaPorte County Museum at LaPorte. If you love cars and history, Indiana has you covered. Let's go on a road trip and see the dreams of the past. At Richmond, Indiana, are two car museums, right across the street from each other. One admission gets you into both at the Model T Museum. The first is on the hill. I met a really nice guy that was there with his wife. He restores old Fords, and he was absolutely loving it. The Model T was very basic, but you could have any color that you wanted, as long as it was black. While it might look like just an old car, in its time, it was pure innovation. Before Henry Ford made the Model T, cars were virtually made from scratch in a very time-consuming process. Henry developed an assembly line with standardized parts. This cut production costs, making cars affordable to many people, not just the rich. In 1910, you could buy a brand new Model T for $780. But in 1924, given many innovations, the price went down to $290. To put this in perspective, that's about $5,000 in today's money for a brand new car. They were easy to work on and maintain, basically an engine and transmission. There wasn't a lot to go wrong. Unlike today, they didn't have air conditioning, power steering, power windows, cruise control, or radios. That was a long time later. But these could take you virtually anywhere. For their time, they had an amazing suspension. Before Jeeps, Hummers, and other off-road vehicles, you had the Model T. Try this with your Toyota Camry. Later on, you could get different colors and fancier options. Bigger cars were made for families. And just like computers and artificial intelligence is making opportunities today, entrepreneurs took advantage of the technology, such as delivery trucks for businesses. In a day when people lived on farms and didn't come to town very much, taking your products to customers was genius. This was over 100 years before Amazon Prime. Imagine the days before motorized vehicles and a fire broke out. Fire departments would have to buckle up horses and a wagon before they could go. Motorized fire engines were a godsend. Firemen simply jumped on the fire engine and off they went, saving countless more lives than before. But this small exhibit did not prepare any of us for what was across the street. We were joined by a second group. This is a pretty big exhibit detailing a wide range of timepieces, and that's just what they are, timepieces. For certain, it was a completely different time when people drove these. These vehicles didn't have a lot of options, but people loved them anyway. Turning them into race cars just came naturally. The museum resembles an old garage, and you can see the very basic construction of the Model T. Some were made into tractors for the farm, wagons, and mobile stores. The possibilities felt endless, and Henry Ford was considered a hero. People loved what the Model T could do for them. With these vehicles, they could drive long distances, see interesting things, and come home that very same day. They could visit relatives and friends that lived far away. It was an absolute marvel. Today it's very easy to take cars for granted. But what a difference they've made in all of our lives. These early cars were very basic, but they just kept getting better. If you could go to only one car museum in Indiana, this would be it. The Auburn Duesenberg Museum at Auburn. Housed in an Art Deco building, it's a timeless showroom of beautiful cars. For a fact, it's very extensive, with 2 floors of amazing exhibits. It has some of the earliest cars. To the later models, driven by rich movie stars such as Clark Gable and Gary Cooper. A Accord luxury car was made at Connorsville between 1929 and 1937. Comedian Jay Leno owns a very pricey Accord 812 that he bought here in 2013. From 1920 to 1937, Duesenbergs were made in Indianapolis, founded by brothers Fred and August Duesenberg. In their time, they were both the fastest and most luxurious cars ever built. Despite being all-metal cars, the SSJ model went 0 to 60 in 8 seconds. That is scary fast for that much iron. In 2018, the SSJ owned by Gary Cooper sold at auction for $22 million. In 1978, the Duesenberg name was sold to Elite Heritage Motors. Ending production in 2001, they built 67 brand new Duesenbergs. Each were over $125,000 a copy. But the originals here are the high-dollar collectibles of the rich. Many have sold at auction for more than modern Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Bugattis. It's nearly overwhelming, and yet, this is only the first of 4 galleries. The second gallery starts off simple, but escalates quickly. How about a taxi ride? It'll cost you a whole 25 cents for the first mile, and 5 cents for each additional. I'll bet you can't find an Uber that cheap. And then, a classic Cord. Some of these have sold for $500,000. My paid-off Nissan Sentra seems better and better all the time. But upstairs we go, where more incredibly pricey cars await us. If this floor doesn't floor you, you're not a fanatic. In front of you are some of the most beautiful and expensive cars in the world. This one is my favorite. Literally, millions of dollars are all around you. You're going to your high school reunion. You want to make a big entrance. Here you go. Exhibits do change. You never know what you'll see here. You can even jump in an Indy car for a selfie. Yep, I definitely need to cut carbs. The final gallery is a walkthrough of some of the very oldest cars. Believe it or not, the first cars were electric, not powered by gasoline. The reason they were phased out? Difficulty finding a place to charge the batteries. And the power grid wasn't big enough. Sound familiar? Gas-powered vehicles won due to abundant oil reserves and a network of gas stations. With this, you could get all the gals. Though even after a short drive, you'd both reek of gas fumes. Did I mention that all the gas had toxic lead in it? romantic as a box of chocolates with a bow. The section had a very old-timey vibe. Actually, kind of steampunk. Some people buy yellow Corvettes to stand out. Very few things have changed in the human mind. We want something newer, better, flashier. I love my air conditioning and power steering. Not to mention electronic ignition. Once upon a time, you had to crank a lever until you got a spark. Antique is romantic. Modern is very good. They don't make these anymore, and for most of us, this is the closest we'll ever get to having one. But you can buy a ticket, walk around the exhibits, and dream that it's yours. For a fact, it's a whole lot cheaper. Just behind the Auburn Duesenberg Museum is a hidden monster. The National Auto and Truck Museum. Looking at the outside, it looks pretty small, but it's anything but. Inside, it's one of the largest, if not the largest, automotive museums in Indiana. The first thing you'll see is a huge number of muscle cars. So much testosterone at one place, I might have grown 3 chest hairs after just one visit. If you were a kid in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, one of these may have been your dream car. I've never seen a red DeLorean. Nearly all of them are plain stainless steel. What a walk down memory lane. Millions upon millions of dollars are inside this building. There are dioramas depicting what the era was like. I think I saw Elvis. You'll see the General Motors Parade of Progress bus. This would be awesome on any road trip. After World War II, the economy flourished. This ushered in an era in which middle-class people had decent money. And they spent it on beautiful cars. But wait, there's more. I know it must sound strange, but I was fascinated by the classic gas pumps. Some of these look like designer watches. The vintage nozzles aren't a whole lot different than what we have today. You think you had a cool pedal car as a kid? Check these out. If you were one of those kids that collected Hot Wheels and Matchboxes, you'll have a flashback. Toys of all kinds. This museum is a lot to take in, and we haven't even seen the basement. They do have an elevator, or you can take the stairs. My mouth dropped open when I saw how big this was. It's an entirely different museum, focused on trucks. This one reminds me of one my grandpa had, definitely bringing back memories, including these toys. Grandma and Grandpa used to buy us toy tractors, as we came from a long line of farmers. It's like I stepped back 50 years, back to my childhood. It's like a huge maze down here, and as I visited during the week and outside the tourist season, I had the entire place to myself. I was very impressed by this huge taxi. lots of space for you and your crew. You can look inside a dragster. If you've ever been to a drag race, you know it's loud. But it's a whole lot louder in this seat, guaranteed. And this car went over 308 miles an hour. There are so many surprises down here. Just a random classic Corvette. They also have a garage where they restore these vehicles, passing on skills to the next generation. If you're truly a car fanatic, this might be one of the best days of your entire life. You can get a combo ticket for both this and the Auburn Duesenberg Museum. At South Bend is the Studebaker National Museum. Housed in an unassuming building, it's the finest collection of Studebakers in the entire world. Studebaker as a brand was founded in 1852, right here in South Bend. Originally, they manufactured horse-drawn wagons and carriages. In 1902, they started producing electric automobiles. This was 106 years before the first Tesla Roadster. They were well ahead of their time. It wasn't until 1904 that they manufactured gasoline-powered vehicles. And there are many fine early examples. Some are incredibly classy. Studebaker diversified in many areas beside passenger cars. But this is all just a warm-up lap for the shiny metal objects to come. This section is simply amazing, with some of the most beautiful cars that I've ever seen. Whatever they pay to wax these things is not enough. So cute, you want to squeeze it. Absolutely, positively mesmerizing. These cars make me think of my parents' era, a happier, upbeat time of malt shops and good times. There is a lot of history to be seen here, including a basement, showing vehicles made for the war effort. There is so much. The vehicles are stacked too high. Frozen in time and waiting to be explored, the museum is a wonderful walk through the past. The LaPorte County Museum at LaPorte is not only a huge county museum, but has car exhibits on 3 floors. On the first floor are only a handful. It doesn't even hint at what's to come. Let's take a spin around the museum. In the basement is a hodgepodge of vehicles. A police car. Some classics. I really like this Thunderbird. I can totally see myself in this one. There are very old antiques. And a car of the future, at least what we thought cars would look like. Not a lot of room for you and the crew. But the second floor is where it really gets good. This collection consists of over 30 cars from Dr. Peter Kessling, an avid collector. I can't begin to name all of these. Having graduated in 1986, this was one of my dream cars, the one from the movie Back to the Future. Inside the DeLorean, it pretty much looks like any GM car from the 1980s. This is not a coincidence. The company president was a former GM executive. You might be able to fit 2 more friends if you had to, but it would be tight. Other than a stainless steel body that would never rust, it was never practical. Try parking at Target and trying to raise the gull-wing doors. But for every guy my age, it was very cool. There are remnants from the Door Prairie Museum that closed some time ago. From the very old. Classic cars. and even a car you can drive to the lake that converts to a boat. In southern Indiana, this one would come in very handy after all the snow melts. I guess you could say this museum has a little something for everyone. To be perfectly clear, there's a lot of eye candy here at the LaPorte County Museum, and that's not even including the county history. You could definitely spend some time here. This place is worth the drive. When my brother and I were kids, we played with Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars, like many kids used to do. We created a land of make-believe, where all our dreams came true, and we had garages filled with amazing cars. In my lifetime, I've driven some cool rides. Owned a few. And lost a ton of money on a younger man's quest. We had so many crazy dreams. Some came true, many didn't. But it's dreams that fill the gap between joy and the impossible. Indiana has museums that take me back to a time when I was much more naive and thought I knew a lot more than I did. For the price of admission, for a little while, I get to relive my youth all over, appreciating the beauty of these works of art. Once again reliving the dreams of the past.